it's Jessii Vee. We're finally back doing this series. I haven't continued this series in like 2 months. I'm so sorry. You guys request me to keep doing this series all the time, so today we are on California. And let me tell you, there are so many haunted places in California that I literally couldn't cover them all in one video. So I chose the top 3 that really stood out to me that I think you guys are gonna find really intriguing. The first place is like mind-blowing, so be prepared. Before I get into this though, I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't gotten your tickets for the Running with Violet premiere, it is coming up super fast. You guys are invited to go there with me. It's on July 11th at 7 p.m. It's in Toronto at the Tiff Bell Lightbox, so all of my V team in Ontario, Canada, come through. No, I would just love to meet you. There's meet and greet tickets to just hang out with me, take pictures. There's gonna be a red carpet. You get to sit in the theater with me to watch the show. It's just gonna be so much fun, and I would love to see you guys there. There's only 50 meet and greet tickets available. They're going really fast. If you want to get yours, the ticket link is down below in the description. So yeah, I would love to see you there. I'm in this series. I play a character named Frankie, so you get to watch the entirety of season 2 with me at this theater, so it's exciting. Ticket link down below. So the first place we're going to talk about in California, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about because they just recently made a movie about this house. We are going to be talking about the Sarah Winchester house. Now, I watched this movie with Ty like 4 months ago, and I had to turn it off halfway because honestly, I didn't think it was that good. I really didn't like it that much. And I mean, if you loved that movie, that's great, but I feel like they didn't tell the story the way they should have, and it just was kind of bleh. So that is why today I'm going to be telling you guys the story in my own words, in my own opinions. And just so you know, there are so many different versions of the story of what happened at the Sarah Winchester house. So many people have told it in different ways. So people aren't really sure which version is the true one, but I'm gonna tell you about what I researched and just sort of take it for what you will. So Sarah Winchester was married, and unfortunately her husband died in 1881. She was so upset and distraught by this, understandably, so she decided to reach out to a psychic medium. This psychic medium decided to have a seance with her, and during this very scary seance, Sarah was told that she was cursed. Apparently, the Winchester family that she married into had killed a lot of people. It says that tons of people were slain by the Winchester rifle, and because of that, Sarah was forever cursed by the Winchester fortune. The medium basically told her that she was haunted by hundreds of spirits, which is something you never want to hear, and the spirits were telling her that they wanted her to move to California to build them a house. The spirits wanted her to build them a house. Imagine being told that by a psychic. Like, you just go see a psychic one day and she's like,
yeah, so you're cursed and there's about 400 spirits following you and they want you to build them a mansion.
It's super easy, I know. I would be like, yeah, no. Tell them I just don't have the funds for that. Anyways, Sarah accepted their proposal, which is super nice of her. So she moved to California to find a place to build this house, and every single night at midnight, she would have a seance with these spirits. She would like ring this bell at midnight to let the spirits know it was time to have their seance. She would communicate through a Ouija board, which is something I would never, don't ever do that, it's not good. But the spirits every night would basically give her building instructions for how to build this house. Like, these spirits were really smart. They knew what they were doing. They knew, like, architecture. So to please these spirits' wishes, she made sure the house was being built 24/7 every single day of the year. So there was never a time that the house was not being added on to. She had this fear that if construction stopped, she would die. But here's the thing, Sarah didn't like these spirits. She didn't want them around her. As much as it seemed like she was trying to please them and build them a house, it wasn't out of her own will. She was actually just really afraid of them. So she decided she would be sneaky and confuse the spirits. So she made sure that as the house was being built, she almost made it like a maze for the spirits. So she would have staircases that led to nowhere. So there'd be this staircase in her house that basically just went up to the ceiling, and that's it, they just stopped. She would also have doors in the house that would open up to a wall. They wouldn't go into rooms, they would just have a wall when you open the door. She just wanted to make this house super confusing for the spirits, so they would be more occupied with trying to figure out how to get around the house house than bothering her. She would even make sure to sleep in a different room every single night to keep the spirits off of her trail. She had number 7s carved everywhere into the house because she thought it was a lucky number and would maybe keep her safe. But she also had the number 13 carved into the house, which she thought was a lucky number, but we all know number 13 is not so lucky all the time. Some people like to say she was just a crazy lady and all of this was in her head, and after her husband passed, she just went bonkers. So to this day, we're not really sure if it was spirits or if it was just her mind going away, flitting away. But there are tours of the Winchester house all of the time, and tour guides usually seem to exaggerate her story and twist it. So the tour guides might be the reason why we have so many different versions of what actually happened. But I just find like her story really interesting, and I would love to see the house eventually in my lifetime. The next thing we're gonna talk about is kind of an urban legend to California. It's called the Charman of OJ, California. I hope I'm saying that right. It's OJ? OJ, California is an odd place, people say. It's interesting because it's a mix of rural country with residents that have lived there forever, and the other half is kind of a place where celebrities go to vacation with the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. So it's like rural, but also popular with celebrities. It's like a mix of everything. But everything is set in the stunning natural splendor of the OJ Valley, with beautiful orchards and hiking trails. There's still a big part of that area that's just wilderness. People have been going there to camp for a long time, and one of the scariest campfire stories that people tell around the fire is about the Charman. People to this day are unsure if this campfire story is real or fake just to scare people. But it's been repeated so often over the years that a lot of people in OJ, California really think that it's real. They'll swear up and down that the Charman is actually out there. So I'm gonna tell you the story of the Charman. Get ready. So OJ, California is a very hot valley and one of the driest places in California. And you guys all know what happens when you have a really dry area. It can have a lot of forest fires, which is a terrible thing to ever happen. So there was a fire that broke out in 1948, and it was a particularly large fire, bigger than they've ever seen before. It burned a huge chunk of the valley. Tons of people who lived there had to flee for their lives. It was a really horrible event. Now, there was this isolated cabin that was sort of far off in the hills of OJ, away from everybody else. And this cabin was like in the middle of the forest where this fire was happening. There was a man who lived in this cabin with his young son, and they sort of kept their distance from people. They were kind of like shut-ins. And it says that the people who lived in OJ, California kind of forgot about them because they never really saw them. Well, their cabin was directly in the line of where the wildfire was happening, and so their entire place just sort of lit up in flames. The father unfortunately didn't make it, but the son got out, but he was horribly injured. He was burned up. Honestly, it was amazing he was even walking. But for some reason, this boy didn't try to run to get help. He sort of stayed and hid in one of the bushes by the burned up cabin. So when the police finally arrived at the scene and saw what took place, this boy for some reason was afraid of the police and decided to run away. So all these police saw was this burned kid running up the hill, and they never saw him ever again. It says he ran into the hills, and that was the last time anyone saw him up close. He had become the Charman of OJ, California, nothing short of a monster. So this is honestly a really sad story. I hope it's not true. It could honestly just be a scary campfire story, but people always say if you're ever hiking in this area, if you're camping in this area, there is a chance that you'll see him, and he's not a very pleasant sight because of what happened to him. There was actually a story that came out a few years ago where a teenage boy was hiking in the forest, and he claimed the Charman ran up and stole his jacket from him. Don't really know how accurate that claim is or how real that claim is, but people apparently see the Charman all the time. So I just found that really intriguing. And I would also love to know if any of you guys that are watching live near any of these places that I'm talking about. Wow. The last thing we're gonna be talking about is the ghost of the Hollywood sign. I find this very intriguing because I went to California, when was it? 2 years ago? And I was right by the Hollywood sign. I got pictures of it, like I was right there. This story is also very tragic. I feel like when it comes to most ghost stories, they're obviously going to be tragic because it involves someone passing away, usually tragically, and their spirit lingers wherever they passed away. So you're never really gonna have like a happy paranormal story. On the night of September 18th, 1932, 1992, actress Peg Entwistle made her way up the steep slope of Mount Lee in Los Angeles to sit on the famous Hollywood sign. And back then when it happened, the Hollywood sign was actually spelled Hollywoodland, which I never knew about. That's kind of cool to know. She climbed up a 50-foot ladder to stand on top of the H. And she was up there looking over Hollywood at all of the lights and the glamour. And then she unfortunately jumped. And obviously it's a really high up ladder, so she didn't make it through the fall. She was found the next day by a hiker. And since then, people have been spotting her spirit all around the Hollywood sign. Over the years, park rangers have reported seeing a pretty blonde woman dressed in 1930s clothing wandering around the park's path. She's always described as looking sad, and whenever anybody approaches her, she vanishes. She most often appears late at night when conditions are foggy, and she is often accompanied by the strong scent of gardenias. And that is said to be Peg's favorite fragrance. She always wore that smell of perfume. Gardenia is a flower, right? But that's true for a lot of spirits. A lot of the times when you come across one, it comes with a scent as well, whether that be like cigar smoke, perfume. Sometimes it's like a scent of rot, which is usually meaning it's a bad spirit. But here's another encounter with someone seeing her. As a couple was walking their dog along the Beechwood Canyon trail of the park, their dog began to behave strangely. He was whimpering and cowering behind them, and this couple had no idea what was wrong. Suddenly, this woman appeared in front of them in out-of-date clothing, so something from the 1930s. She apparently looked very dazed and confused and sad, like people like to describe her, and when they went to approach her, she vanished. So yeah, this happens to people all the time, and it's weird thinking that I was right there and didn't know this story back then. I wish I kind of did. But that's why we have this series, so we can learn together about all of the haunted areas all around the world. So yeah, I'm gonna try and do this series a lot more often, and obviously at some point I will get to you watching right now. I will get to where you are, because I'm not just gonna do states, I'm gonna do everywhere around the world eventually. So yeah, hope you guys are enjoying this series. Don't forget the Running with Violet tickets are down below in the description. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!